It said that it ended slavery. And the decisions that came after the 13th Amendment said that not only did they end slavery, they were going to end all vestiges of slavery. Every badge of slavery had to be eliminated. And this was those guys like Thaddeus Sumner and Charles Sumner and Thaddeus Stevens. This was them working it out in that Congress, trying to get the best they could get. And they were talking it. And they even got a reparations bill passed. A reparations bill passed, but the reparations bill was vetoed by the old racist Andrew Jackson. That's what happened. So 40 acres was for real. They passed the 40 acres. But this 13th Amendment, which promised unqualified freedom, was only a joke. It really was never to be enforced, and it never got enforced. By 1868, they had passed another group of legislation. And when they send your kids to law school, they lie to them, and they get them coming out sometimes dumber than they were when they went in. Right. They tell them that the 1868 bill was better than the 1865. The 1868 said to free people. Now, dig this now. It didn't say, I mean, in terms of the way it's worded, it didn't say, well, you can become a citizen if you want to be a citizen. It said that you have to be a citizen of the United States. Now, how do you tell free people what they got to be, right? Especially when you know you got people in Davis Bend, Mississippi, and the South Carolina Sea Isles, and all kinds of places all over the Americas, and in the Latin Americas fighting for absolutely unqualified freedom. And so this is where we got tricked, the citizenship trick. By the 20th century, Malcolm would call it second-class citizenship. And what he would further define it as is 20th century slavery. That's what he would call it. He said second-class citizenship is no more than 20th century slavery. And we all really confused. See, you know, I've seen some real heavy people that's confused on this issue, Sister Joanne. I mean, I've seen some Marxists, you know, who know everything, right? Who know how the world turns, right? I've seen people who are supposed to be scholars in Harvard University. Who's that ignorant guy? Gates up there teaching at Harvard University. You know what I'm saying? I've seen all kinds of so-called smart people get stupid when you ask them a simple question. Because the simple question is, if the 13th Amendment freed you, how could the 14th Amendment tell you what you got to do, right? How can you do it? How can it happen? Brother Reed, I asked the professor at Wayne State University that question, and he ain't answered me yet, right? If the 13th Amendment freed you, how could the 14th Amendment tell you what you had to do, right? If it let you free to be what you wanted to be, then how could you tell those people in Davis Bend, Mississippi, that they couldn't have a free nation state like they were trying to build, right? How could it happen? But it became that citizenship trick. And so all these smart people with all this smart information talking about how we should do for self, you know, all these Negroes, these what do you call them, neo-conservative. I'm trying to improve my language, y'all. So, you know, it used to be that I would have said it real quick, you know what I'm saying? But I slow up a little bit now that I've been elected to the city council. But all these neo-conservative, you know, all the modern day Uncle Tom Negroes, Armstrong and the rest of them, all of them going around here don't have a clue of what they're talking about. And then they talk about, well, we got to do for ourselves. Well, we know that. Didn't that what Elijah Muhammad said?
Yes, sir. That's what he said.
The Negroes actually are talking like they're coming up with some new invention when Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, and Malcolm X were talking that all along. Because although they realized that we were the victims of oppression, that those who were oppressing us were never going to do what we needed to have done. So they knew that we had to do it ourselves. So that's why they talked about fatherhood and responsibility and being a good mother and keeping strong families. We don't have to get on NBC or ABC and give a speech like my good brother Bill Cosby and Jesse criticized him, although Jesse was the first one to do that nonsense. We don't have to get on TV or get on radio or go on a big interview in order to tell black people that they need to be responsible. Go to church and tell black people they need to be responsible. Go to the classroom and tell black people they need to be responsible. Ride on that bus with Sister Jackson say she ride. Tell them they need to be responsible. But what we were bedeviled with throughout the years is this notion of qualified freedom. And if you listen closely to them, because they had a lot of contradictions to explain. They always have contradictions to explain. They couldn't just say you're free. Because how are they going to explain the fact that you don't make as much money as they do? How are you going to explain that you don't nearly make as much money or own as many businesses as they do? That you only own 1% of, less than 1% of the wealth in the United States of America when it comes to the manufacturing wealth, right?
That's right.
How are they going to explain that you don't have as many people going to law school that you should have? And how are they going to explain that in Mississippi, the law schools, or not the law schools, but the black colleges don't get nearly as much money as the white colleges get, right? How are they going to explain that? So what they call it, they told you to say you were almost free. You were becoming free. You were a little freer than you used to be, but not quite as free as you're going to be, right? And so they created this whole philosophy of qualified freedom and turned it into an art form. Had all kinds of ignorant Negroes going around talking about it like it was some kind of new discovery. Encouraging you on all kinds of ignorant ministers standing up in pulpits talking this nonsense about qualified freedom.
That's right.
Even Martin Luther King made it very clear. He says that we have to have absolutely unfettered, complete freedom. This is what he said. This is what he said. And so what we do is we move on this journey and we continue to move on, and skipping a little history, we get to, what are we in now? Sometimes these things happen over and over again. I forget my year, sometimes even my century, all right? But I think we're in 2010, right? And so now we have just had a quintessential victory of the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was a powerful movement. It was really the movement that brought us to action. Even though the Honorable Marcus Garvey was responsible for educating us to who we were, Elijah Muhammad helped, Malcolm X helped, and many other in what we call the nationalist or the Pan-Africanist movement kept us in touch with real history.
Right.
Remember when they used to say that Elijah Muhammad was crazy because he said the black man was the original man, remember?
That's right.
Now, if you don't say that nowadays, they'll take your license from you, right?
That's right.
Because they all know that was true. But they kept us in that knowledge, and in many respects, they taught us how to institutionalize and build institutions that would serve us. But it was the Civil Rights Movement. It was those kids down in Greensboro, and those kids over in Mississippi and down in Louisiana and various other places who decided they were going to sit in at those lunch counters. Who said they wasn't going to take it anymore. They were coming out of the traumatization that we had when Emmett Till was killed. You remember how it felt when Emmett Till was killed. You know how it felt. We were traumatized. And then Emmett put his children's, not Emmett, but Emmett's mother put her baby's picture in the magazine.
The Jet.
So everybody could feel it. My mother at 8 years old sat me down and read me the Emmett Till story from the Jet magazine. And anybody in Claudia, I see my great friend Claudia Moore, can give her a round of applause. One of the people who were in the South, who went to the South to struggle against this Jim Crow phenomenon. But right after Emmett died, it was, some people say that when you really get beat down bad, then that's when you really fight back. No, that's not always true. Because when Emmett died, many of us were traumatized. And it took things like Rosa sitting in the back of that bus to begin a movement that would begin to move us forward. But we always remembered Emmett Till. We remembered Emmett Till. And it was the actions of civil rights workers, the Martin Luther Kings and the others who said that they were going to stand up against the system and fight the system. We were smart as nationalists, but sometimes nationalists had a plan that just didn't work. Because what we were trying to do was build an alternative existence without confronting the existence that we were living in. Right? We forgot the fundamental principle of human dynamics as applied from physics. That no two powers can occupy the same space at the same time.